Hey, you all. I just wanted to tell you how amazing your comments have been on Perusal. I just wanted to say it to you in a video, and I'm going to post this on our site. You all are killing it. When you are responding to each other and when you are responding to the article, you're getting a sense of it, and it is as close as we can come to a kind of an open and live discussion that we might have in a classroom. So amazing work, everyone. You're doing so well. It's so amazing to read these. I chuckle out loud to myself. I am happy, 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 happy. You all are doing an amazing job making me happy. So first things first, let's remember, you all can say anything you want in Perusal, and I'll give you points if I see you doing that work. So you don't have to agree all the time. You can disagree. You can say that the article's author is full of crap and explain why. It does not matter to me. It matters that you are engaged in the article by doing that work. So agree, disagree, ask questions, ask me questions like, Chris, why the hell did you assign this? Or what does he mean by this? And I will get in there and I'll try to answer your questions. A couple of things about this article. Schiappa's defining reality. When are wetlands political? When are definitions political? Always is his question. He's not a radical, but he's a pragmatist, which means he's interested in asking the kind of question, okay, we have these competing definitions. In whose interests are these definitions being enacted? Another way to say that might be something like, whose definitions do these interests serve? Now, scientists, politicians, the working people of this country, corporations, developers, we all are in different groups and maybe multiple groups at the same time. But one of the things to remember is that science is a process where we are always engaged in debate. That is, if we see as a kind of work of science the ways in which we establish definitions, then those definitions will always be checked and refined and fine-tuned and expanded or contracted. Thus, the work of defining is also about categorizing, right? I wanted to shout from the rooftops, think about Pluto. Now, there are no public policy, implications of Pluto being uh, relegated to satellite status. Pluto is no longer a planet. Scientifically, we were just like, Pluto, not a planet. You got demoted, right? That could be because we learned more about Pluto. That could be because we refined the definition of what a planet ought to be. But you know what? The only thing that needs to change is every textbook in the world, right? So there are no public policy decisions. There could be like economic decisions, like how many new textbooks do we have to print just because Pluto is no longer a planet? Do we photocopy some page and just stick it into the new textbooks? Okay, here's another example. Light, to some scientists, is best understood as a particle, to others is a wave. This is a very old theory. They are defining it. So to define is to categorize. Think about situations in which a new lizard appears and the scientists say, well, is this of the class this or the phylum that? If Godzilla appeared, there's a new Godzilla King Kong movie. Godzilla appears, right? And we're like, well, do we need a new category for this huge lizard as opposed to all the other lizards? And most lizards don't really live in the oceans. So what do we do with this? What category do we put Godzilla in? So think about this. As rhetoricians, which you are in this course, environmental rhetoric. There are all kinds of different ways in which we are trying to categorize and define the world. That is the work of scientists, right? But one of the things that Schiappa says is, okay, so politics, public policy can't work like that. What if The definition of murder was changing on a yearly basis. How could we ever find anyone guilty of it? We have to fix a definition for the purposes of enacting a law or exacting some kind of justice. Science will be an ongoing process where perhaps nothing is ever proved, but we get closer and closer to the truth all the time by refining our definitions. Public policy has to be like, okay, well, the scientists are saying this, my constituents are saying this, developers are saying this. How do I put that all in the hopper and decide then what the public policy should be? So that's the kind of central tension here. It's not that, science has the real definition. It's that it's got a very important definition whose interests might change over time. And this is one of the things that we see with climate change, right? For a long time, scientists thought that they should not interfere in public policy. They should not take a kind of a public policy role as defining or advocating for certain kinds of different kinds of governmental regulations or the loosening of those regulations. We now find ourselves in situations where, as scientists, people are saying, no, I actually do want to protect this area. There is let's just say, a species of butterfly on the Rocky Mountain, in the Rocky Mountains. And as climate change heats up the earth, that butterfly is changing its ecology. It's moving up the side of the mountain because it needs a certain kind of temperature. Maybe it's moving down the mountain, maybe it's moving up, but it's moving, right? So that butterfly scientist who could exist here at Chico State is saying to him or herself, saying to themselves, I not only want to learn everything I can about this butterfly, I want to protect it. I want to make recommendations so that we would set land aside, or so that we would try to kind of put protections on the kinds of ways in which we use pesticide or other kinds of things. So in different kinds of ways, then, these definitions are essential parts of rhetoric where we're trying to be persuasive to change people's operative definitions of certain kinds of things that we might want to protect or things that we might want to do as far as climate change. What does this mean in terms of your project? Of course, the Chiapa stuff could be the way that you approach this first paper where you say, well, I'm going to do this with COVID-19. I'm going to do this with KN95 masks. I'm going to do this with vaccines. These are all environmental issues in their way. I'm going to do this with something that I know from my discipline, from my major. So be thinking about those kinds of things. Oh, by the way, this is Table Mountain. We have set aside Table Mountain. These are wildflowers. I mean, yeah, I mean, you call them a wildflower, but like I don't know anything about wildflowers. That's my definition. It's a very public definition. Look at the wildflowers. You go up to Table Mountain, right? But scientists looking at this field would note different kinds of things and different kinds of definitions for the kinds of flowers that appear right here, or the kinds of land that we find up at Table Mountain. Think about this for your first paper, how you could pick on some particular definition that you think has been changed through a kind of a rhetorical artifact that you find, or needs to change, and use Chiapa as a way of analyzing the back and forth that might exist there. So I am excited. You all are doing awesome in Perusal. I love to read what you all are coming up with. Stay tuned, more to come.